Right around the turn of the millennium, social games were so in, and I don't mean MMORPGs, which were also very popular at the time as well. I mean games that were entirely based around socializing. And there was one company at the time that was clearly a cut above the others, and this company has a name that I have never had to say out loud, so please forgive me if I get it wrong. I would say Sulake, but they're Finnish, so I'm going to assume that it is Sulake, but you probably know them as the company that was behind Habbo Hotel. Habbo Hotel was not their only victory in the 2000s though. They also collaborated with Disney on a game called Virtual Magic Kingdom and Coca-Cola on the game that we are going to be talking about today. Of course, Coca-Cola is a company most widely known for Pepsi. Anyway, come 2002, Coca-Cola was really interested in establishing a social network. They had their hands in this for quite a number of years. At the time, they had the Coke Music brand, which was intended to kind of be their main social network thing, and they wanted a game to go along with Coke Music. So they ended up reaching out to Sulake and asking them to do something that was kind of like Habbo Hotel, because of course at this point in time Habbo Hotel had already been out for 2 years and it was quite popular. What we ended up getting was a game called Coke Studios, which was developed by Sulake, and it was almost identical to Habbo Hotel aside from the branding, and I guess the gameplay loop was a bit different because it actually had one. While Habbo Hotel was mostly focused 100% on socializing and getting you to get your parents to buy you actual Habbo coins because everything was based on real money, Coke Studios did things just a little bit differently. There was a music mixer, you could perform songs live for people, and thumbs up would get you money in-game, decibels in-game, which is what they called money. And honestly, it was a nice alternative to Habbo Hotel if you didn't want to spend real money on what was essentially a social networking game. The game for a number of years was like massively popular, and that it had collaborations with some surprisingly big names. It had collaborations with FIFA, it had collaboration with NCAA, it had a yearly collaboration with American Idol, it had a collaboration with Batman Begins, and then the last one is Shark Tales, which they were there too. They also collabed with Shark Tales, so at least somebody did. And all things considered, the gameplay was actually really fun. A lot like in Habbo Hotel, how you could have your own hotel room, you could set up your own studio in Coke Studios, and you could choose from a couple of room layouts and what location you wanted your room set in. You could have parties at your room, but primarily one of the main reasons you would want to go into your room would be to use the music mixer, and the music mixer was how you would make tracks that you would go play in public rooms later to try and earn decibels. So the mixer that you're seeing in this video, I don't actually remember the mixer looking like this. I don't know if this is just the private server that I was using to get this footage, or if they updated it at some point after I had quit playing the game. I remember it looking more like this, but anyway, the concept is you basically have a bunch of loops and you drag them in over top of each other and you make songs. You would then use some of your decibels to buy blank CDs, and at your mixer, you would burn those songs to a CD so you could take them to the public lobbies. And it's really showing its early 2000s with this. And once you got to a public lobby, you know, back in the day, there was actual people online, and you'd get in queue to go perform. And once you got up on the stage, you'd play your track, and it would give you the option to sing through text as well. And then the song would finish and the room would vote on how they felt about your song. They could give it a thumbs up or they could give it a thumbs down. And however many thumbs up you got would impact the amount of decibels that you would earn from the game. It was a really fun and engaging gameplay loop. And honestly, funny enough, I've been into music production for about 10 years now, and I have actual digital audio workspaces and stuff. I think my first exposure to producing music was in Coke Studios and also the Flash game Punk-O-Matic, which worked very similarly. You could also earn decibels from drinking Coca-Cola out of the crates, which was kind of funny. You get usually, I think, 100 from under each bottle cap. I think you could also earn decibels from playing online mini games, but you'd take these afterwards, and a lot like Habbo Hotel, the main draw was to get furniture. So you would use your decibels and you'd buy furniture to decorate your studio, which could really bring it to life. And then you could use the messenger and invite people that you met in game to your studio and play music there, or just hang out and chat. I had a lot more wholesome experiences playing Coke Studios than I ever did on Habbo Hotel. Habbo Hotel could be a little bit sketchy at times, especially as like a really young person, but that's a different story. But unfortunately, unlike Habbo Hotel, which is still going and hanging on to this day, surprisingly, and they just launched Habbo Hotel Retro not that long ago, or Classic or whatever it's called, Coke Music, Coke Studios, MyCoke, it didn't have the same happy ending. As I had mentioned, social networking games in the 2000s were huge, like just social games in general, and you've probably heard of games like Second Life or There. Coca-Cola made this brilliant decision around 2007 to switch away from the Sulake style because they felt it wasn't quite modern enough. The vice president of global interactive marketing at Coca-Cola said to evolve Coke Studios, we needed a digital partner that offered technology and capabilities that we didn't have. She then said that There.com's digital platform offered more flexibility. Unfortunately, for pretty much everybody involved in the game, it meant a huge change because There was a really basic 3D world. People who liked Sulake's pixel art style weren't really jiving with Coca-Cola's relaunch of the game as CC Metro. It just kind of killed the game. They tried to modernize it, but low-key, like, I'm gonna be completely honest, it looked way worse. And it's kind of funny because honestly, when I started researching this, my main goal of the video was to answer the question, what happened to Coke Studios and Coke Music? And the sad part about it is that it's not even a particularly interesting story when you get to the bottom of it. The answer is, this was a marketing game that Coca-Cola collaborated with Sulake on, and later on, some executive who didn't actually understand what the appeal of the game was decided we needed to move to a more modern 3D platform. It lost the player base, and to make matters worse, they switched to There.com at the end of 2007, and There shut down early on in 2010, and the There relaunch didn't happen until 2012, so by that point, interest had moved on completely, and the social games like this were starting to see a decrease in player bases. That was actually really disappointing for me, man, because I got to experience this really interesting private server called Soda Studios. Check them out if you want to try the game. Do not try out the other one. I've heard it's really sus. I think it's called Decibel. Stay away from that one. I thought that maybe there would be a more interesting outcome to this, especially since some of the other Sulake properties are still alive and still going, but nope. The end result is basically that somebody who didn't know what they were talking about decided that the game needed to modernize even though it still had a player base. This drove the whole player base away. And then a game that was basically Habbo Hotel except actually playable if you didn't want to spend real money, unfortunately died. That makes me sad, dude. The other thing that I've gleaned from this, that I've gained when going through this, is that sometimes when you look at something that was important to you in your childhood and you start to question what happened to it, more often than not, the answer is actually going to be just kind of underwhelming and sad. As a kid, I had no concept of the fact that this company might see this pixel art style as out of date and not customizable enough and try to jump onto a different social networking game. And honestly, by 2007, things like Second Life and There, I feel, were starting to be a bit more popular than things like Habbo Hotel. That's just from my own experiences. I'm not actually giving you hard numbers or looking that up because I honestly can't be bothered, but yep. If you were wondering what happened to Coke Studios, dude, corporate incompetence and the decreasing interest in social games in general. End of story. Thank you for joining me today, y'all. I hope you enjoyed this look back at something that was relatively important to me when I was a kid and the disappointing outcome that I had reached when going through it. I haven't posted a video on this channel for a while because I've been in the middle of moving, but I'm hoping to start doing things a little bit more often both here and the main channel. If you enjoyed it, hit subscribe. I'll see you next time. Peace.